Hey, writer friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Holly. I'm a writer aspiring to be a published author. And in today's video, I will be doing a collab with the wonderful author Savannah Goins, who I have here with me today. Savannah is a great writer friend of mine, and she's the author of The Gwythynian and soon to be released the Crivabanian, which I'm super excited about. So she is a self-published author, and I am going to try to go the traditionally published route. So we thought that today would be a great day to talk about the differences between these two publishing routes, why we went along these routes, and to share those experiences with you today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited. Like, you're my writer friend, like I said, so it's cool to like
Yes.
actually be talking to you like in real life.
Yeah.
So I guess like for those of you who don't know about the different routes, like we can each talk about what our route is, and then we'll go into kind of like a little Q&A. So I guess like for me, going the traditionally published route, if you want to go that route, you are trying to get your book published through a publishing house. So you would have to query agents, work with an editor, and sell your manuscript to a publishing house. And then from there, your book will be sold. So that's, yeah.
Okay, and so that's the traditional route, and then the indie publishing route is a little bit different, where instead of spending a lot of time querying for publishers and agents, you end up spending a lot of time saving to pay for editors yourself. So both of them are a really long process, especially in the beginning when you're starting out. But the difference would be, instead of selling your story to a publisher or an agent, you're trying to hire all of the people to produce it yourself. Instead of having someone else produce it, you end up producing it yourself. So you have to hire the editor and multiple editors usually, and then the cover designer, and do all of the advertising yourself and all those kinds of things. So that's just kind of a little general difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay, so we've got like 5 questions, which may be more. We'll just kind of go into the first question, which is, why did you decide to go the self or traditional publishing route? So for me, one of the big reasons why I wanted to go the traditionally published route is because like I wanted the support. Like I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing and I need like help. I'm like not like a type A person at all. Like I want people to help me. I'm not like this leader that's like, I want to do this and this and this. So I felt like, writing the book was what I mainly wanted to focus on. And then like, I know there is some marketing involved, but I just knew that I would have support in terms of like marketing and editing my book. So those things were appealing to me. And, also, if you want to get into one of like the bigger publishing houses, like for example, the Big Five, then you would need like an agent who's your liaison to get you hopefully that book deal with the big publishing houses. So that's kind of why I wanted to go that route.
And so I didn't know that indie publishing was a thing when I was first started writing, and I emailed one of the bloggers that I followed and just asked her if she could explain it to me a little bit more. And she sent me a book by David Goffrin, I think is how you say his last name, and the title of it is slipping my mind at the moment. It's Let's Get Visible, I think, or Let's Get Digital. Let's Get Digital is what it is. And he talks about how much. So if you don't have to share any money with the publisher, you can make a lot more off of ebooks, basically. It is like the short story of that. And he was talking a lot about self-publishing and how a lot of self-publishers make most of their income through ebook sales, and how it's hard to really make a whole lot better off of just the physical sales, but because you can keep a large percentage of something that's taking up no space once it's created and it's just a digital thing, you can make a lot more money off each one of those because there's fewer people to pay. And then as I was just researching it, I just found a lot of interest in the business side of it, and I also liked the idea of having a little more control of it, you know, like with my cover and title and those kinds of things. And just the more I looked into it, the more excited I got about it. And I don't know when I even decided to do it. I just was looking into it and kept writing and kept researching it, and all of a sudden that was what I was doing.
Yeah, I think like that's one of the reasons I went the traditionally published route, is because like that's all I knew. Like I didn't know that there was this other side. And I guess like, you know, everyone always talks about there was that stigma. So that's just, you know, and maybe it was like that before, but it's not like that now. But that was like all I knew was like, oh, you have to go this route. But actually, even when I was like working on my first manuscript, like ran a query realm, like, and I started researching, like, oh, I finished this first draft. Like, now what the heck do I do? Like, I literally knew nothing. And I was like, I didn't even know the word query existed. I'm like, querying agents, what's that? So like, just all the research that I poured into like was just about traditionally, you know, publishing books. So that's like, I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and like the stigma about indie publishing, because it's so easy to do, it's not easy to do, but because you can very easily produce something that looks like a book until you like look really closely, there are a lot of people that do it poorly, and that's why it has that kind of a reputation. But the more popular it gets, the more people are doing it right, and the more exciting of a time it is, I think, to be in it, because it's very possible to do it right. It takes a little more time and a little more money, but you can do like a really good job of it. So I decided, despite like the reputation that it has, to like take the risk on it anyway and try to be one of the people that does it well.
Yeah. And I think you've definitely done that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, because like I always say, like I've read some horrible traditionally published books that like I did not finish. Like I'm like, I'm DNFing this, I cannot get through it. And then, you know, self-published books that I'm like, oh my god, I love this, like I can't wait for the next book. So it's just like, you know, it doesn't matter what route it was, you know, what route it went, it's like, what's the content. So yeah. Okay, so question number 2. Well, and we've touched on these a little bit, but we can go into, you know, more detail. So question number 2 is, what are the pros of your publishing route? So yeah, I kind of touched on this a little bit, but the pros of the traditionally published route are that you get a little more support in terms of like you have an agent that, you know, once you query and get an agent, they're going to be your liaison between you and a publishing house, and more specifically like an editor. So you want, you know, them to be able to work out any sort of contracts and things like that. They're going to know all of the mumbo jumbo of marketing and business that I wouldn't know, and be able to get you the best like book deal. And then, you know, they are going to have those editors that will edit your work, that you will be working with alongside. And I guess like I've seen authors where they're talking about their, you know, they have these deadlines and stuff, but, you know, maybe they're not able to meet them, and their agent is able to kind of help them extend that date, or their publisher is more supportive. So, you know, at least like you just kind of have a team of people that are working on your novel. And then also like, even if you're going the traditionally published route, like I know I will have to do a lot of marketing. Like it's not like, oh, they're going to do everything. Like I've learned, like I'm going to have to do a lot of work myself, but they will at least do some sort of it, some sort of marketing to help me in terms of like, oh, like there's this, you know, book festival or book signing that will have you attend, or just like promo items that you can give for like ARCs and things like that. So yeah, that's, I don't know if I was rambling, but
no, that's all good.
Pros.
So some of the pros for me, like I'd mentioned before, were like having more control over it. I really liked being able to work and like you said, you mentioned something about the team earlier, like having a team. I absolutely love my team, and I love that I like picked them all out myself. Like I interviewed lots of different people, got lots of references from people, and I've been so excited to work with the people that I've worked with, and that's been one of my favorite things. But I liked having the control of being able to choose those people. And like when I was making the cover, I chose someone I chose one of the package where I got unlimited like redos. I can't think of the right word, but I could make as many changes. Yes, unlimited revisions. So they sent me 4 mock-ups. I picked my favorite one. And aspects of the other ones that I wanted added to that one. And then we went through 4 or so revision rounds where I said, I like all these things, but I want to fix this. And I was so pleased with what they did, and I loved that I was the one who got to like make all the decisions about what it would look like in the end. And I did have to pay for that, so it was really expensive. There wasn't a publisher paying for it, but I was very proud of being able to like be in charge of that, I guess.
Yeah.
And then like having the last call on like editing things, I just like that. Like it's fun to be able to decide, yes, I agree with that, and no, I don't agree with that, and be able to put it however I like it. That sounds kind of snooty of me, I guess, but that is something that I really like about it. Let's see. And then also, I have a couple of notes over here. One of the other perks is the business side. I didn't know that I was kind of business inclined, I guess, which is silly because I've had like little businesses since I was like 7. I used to sell like sapling trees from the woods behind my house. Like I've always had like little businesses, and I never thought about going to business school for college or anything like that. But turns out I love the business side of it. Even like I spent my birthday trying to figure out tax papers, and so like the birthday of my business is 3 days after my own birthday. But like I love, like, even though that was a pain, like I have to pay taxes and I have to like charge sales tax and all those kinds of things. Like I really have enjoyed learning about all that and researching it. And there tons of people don't know about it, and I've been able to help out a lot of people with the knowledge that I've gotten to, and that's really a big pro for me too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's important to know that there is that business side of things. And I've been seeing a lot more like people are like, oh, I'm afraid to like say, hey, buy my book, there's a sale, and subscribe to my newsletter on my website. I don't want to be too pushy. Like, and yeah, it's like like you're not being snooty or snobby. It's like I mean, like that's how you're gonna like sell your book. And then yeah, like I think that's cool that like you, like when you're holding like the Guathinian, it's like, this is mine, I did everything, and it's just like all of that was like your creation. So you're not just a creator of like the story inside, but like everything that went into it. So I think that's cool.
It is cool. Yeah,
I'll be like, I did some of this.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so then number 3 is, what are the cons of your publishing route? So, if with self-publishing you have all of that control, we have less control. So I know, like, I don't know if you watch like Kim Chance.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. So, she has that like the awesome publisher Flux Books, and she has the video about like going through like the cover design and having that input. And so it's like, that's really awesome, but that's also kind of rare. And she's saying how lucky she is that she had that opportunity. So I know that like that would be like killer for me if I'm like, wait, I don't really like this cover, but I wanted you to like publish my book. So if you're not happy with it, like you can state your opinion, but they may not listen to you. They may like, we want it to be this way. And then and then I had also touched on before about like deadlines, like, the publishing houses, they have all these other books that they're putting out. So they're like, okay, this is when your book is coming out, so we need this draft by this date. And it's like, life happens a lot. Like tons of things happen. Like last week I'm like, oh, I have to move out of my apartment by June 30th because the building is going to be demolished.
Oh no.
And we're going on vacation June 23rd. So really we have 3 weeks to find an apartment, move out. But thankfully, like we just like rallied and we signed a place like 3 days ago.
Oh, good.
we looked at one place and we're like, yeah, this is good. Like, we want to like, solidify a place. But yeah, it's like, if with all this craziness, I'm like, oh crap, now I have to like move and pack everything up
Ah.
time that like I wasn't expecting. So like for me, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work on the third draft of A Bargo's Riddle because that's one of my quarterly goals and I need to finish it by the end of the month. Well, I'm kind of throwing that out the window because I'm like, I have to focus on moving, but
Yeah.
I have this contract with this, publishing house. I mean, I could give a little bit of leeway, but I have someone relying on me that I'm like, crap, I got to get this done. So that's a con there. Yeah, so I guess those are the biggest cons that I would say.
Oh, so then me for cons, the expense is a big con. So as my like day job, I'm a vet tech, and vet techs are, I picked like the two worst paying careers you could ever pick, and I love my job, it's awesome, but it is not like one of the higher paying jobs out there. So I have been saving for months for the first round of editing for the Creepybanian. I've had it written for over a year, and I've been, you beta read it, so like it's coming along, but it's going to be months and months before I can afford an editor, and it's setting back. It's going to be well over a year after the Gwythinian's release that the Creepybanian's going to come out because of the expense. So that does stink, but that's just part of it. But I'll still be proud of it once it comes out. And then the other big con I would say would be the bad reputation that indie publishing has. That is something that I haven't really run into as much with that. Like as I've been doing like some local events and stuff, I haven't really run into anybody being like, oh, indie published, I'm not buying that. I haven't really run into anybody being like that. So it might not be as widely known or as widely assumed of a thing as it seems to be. But I was actually homeschooled through all through school, so I kind of grew up already like people having like those like expectations, oh, homeschoolers, so I'm kind of used to that, and I know that it's not true for everybody, and I'm happy to be applying that in indie publishing as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know who the author is, but there's the story of like this very successful indie author, and like a publisher went up to him, hey, you want to sell us your books? And he's like, no, I'm doing just fine by myself.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's another thing too, is the expense is like, there's expenses put in for traditionally published authors too. So that's something to be aware of. It's like, it's not like, oh, they're going to pay for everything. And
right.
Some people do like pay for editors before they query. So, that's up to you if you want to do that. But yeah, that's just something. It's like, for me, that would be, I'd be like, I don't want to pay for that. Like, so yeah, I could see where that's rough, but if that's what you want to do, then it's like, it's going to be the best because you're going to find, you have the right editor that you picked that you want to do, and it'll come out at the right time. So,
and in the long run, if you do end up selling, tens of thousands of copies eventually, I'm nowhere near that yet, but if you do end up selling that, like I said, especially with the ebooks, there's less people to pay per sale, so you get a much higher royalty rate. Right. So there's a chance of, now most self-publishers don't end up with those kinds of sales, but if you do, then you end up making a much more significant percentage.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I forgot to touch on this for the pros, but one of the pros of the traditionally published route is that you typically get an advance. Depends how much that is, but so that's a nice thing, is that like you're going to be paid before your book is even like on the market. Whereas if you're self-published, you have to wait for that income to come in. But then the problem comes if you don't like make the book sales on your advance, well, now your publisher's out money and they're not going to like you, and they're probably not going to buy your second book. So there's that expectation. Then it's like, well, you have to be successful. So it's like, and also too, then they get a cut of the money you're making, whereas like every book you sell, like you're getting most of that money. It's like, oh, this is going to this person, this person, this person, and then I get this little bit of amount.
Yeah.
Okay, and then number 4, would you ever consider the opposite route? I like this question a lot. Mm-hmm. So for me, that would be yes. I would definitely consider the self-indie published route. Like I said, like reading books from self-published authors, reading your books, and just seeing, the success in what you can do when you like work hard on your own. I know that there's a lot of work put into it, but, like you were saying, it's very rewarding and you have that control. I think, I'm not saying this is like, oh, this is like a last resort for me, mm-hmm. but it's more so that if there's a project that I'm just so passionate about, which the Celestial Code is for me, like, I'm like, I love this book. Like, I mean, I want this to be out there in the world. And if no, agent or publisher is willing to take it, I mean, I could put it on the back burner and save it for like, okay, maybe next year it'll somehow be more, picked up. But I feel like I'd be like, I want it to be out in the world. I'm going to self-publish it. So I would definitely consider it.
And I definitely would consider traditional publishing as well. I actually have gotten one traditional publishing offer for the Gwythinian, and I considered it, but I ended up deciding I wanted to stick with self-publishing for the series at least. But I would definitely consider, if like there was like a very nice advance and, a bigger publishing house with a good following and everything, I would definitely consider it.
Yeah.
Should that ever happen again? It may never happen again, but if it does, I'll be thinking about it.
I'm sure it will.
I hope so. I mean, it's cool.
And then the last question is, what's your number one piece of advice for writers looking to go your route? So number one piece of advice I would say is to do your research. Like I said, after I finished the first draft of Ran Query Realm, like I didn't know anything. So I just it was like a month and my brain hurt like every day because I was just going from website to website, article to article, just reading about everything. And it hurt me so much, but it was good because like I didn't know anything. But like, even then when I was like getting ready to query, was just like, oh, okay, I need a synopsis. And some of these places I need, a 1 to 3 page summary. What is a query letter? Like what sort of agents, am I looking to query? And even things like, you need to know your market. So having like good comparative titles to compare your book to, is it okay to put your social media in a query letter? Just like everything. So just like really making sure that you're doing your research before you start querying so that you're not, shooting yourself in the foot before you even get started.
Yeah, and I would say for if you've already studied indie publishing at all, you've probably seen everybody say pay a lot for an editor and be like invest the most of your money into really good developmental editing, especially, and then all the other types of editing, because the usually the worst thing, there's either the cover or there's poor editing that end up ruining an indie book. So I think the editing is the most important thing, because if you have to choose between spending a lot on editing or spending a lot on the cover, you can change the cover more easily later than you can change the whole content, because then you'd have to have it all reformatted and it'd be a whole big mess. So the biggest thing would be finding a good editor and being willing to spend that. I mean, it could be probably over $1,000 on an editor if your book is a normal like few hundred page novel length. And another thing would be to really be sure you can trust that editor, because I know a lot of stories of people paying, a couple $1,000s to an editor and then getting completely scammed. And that would just be so sad. So I have been really fortunate, and through other contacts in the bookish world, I've had some people recommend some really great editors to me. So I've never even really contacted an editor without already having them recommended by someone I trust. So I would definitely recommend trusting people having people that you can trust give you some recommendations, and then editors will usually do like a sample edit, so they'll usually take the first few pages, the first 1,000 words or something like that. I would also try to stick to editors that will do that and get a couple of different ones to give you a sample edit and see which one you like the best, which one you think will be the best fit for you and for your novel.
That's awesome. Yeah, and is that free then? Will they do that for free?
Yes, usually a sample edit is free. I've only had one editor say that she didn't normally do a sample edit, and I ended up not deciding to work with her, because every other editor that I've been in contact with has been like, oh yeah, just send me your sample, send me the first 1,000 words or whatever, and they all have a little bit of a different amount, but they absolutely should. I mean, if you're going to ask someone to spend thousands of dollars on your service, you should be able to give them a sample of that service. So definitely steer clear of someone who doesn't want to give you a free couple thousand words of an edit.
Yeah. It's kind of like our books. Like, we have the back blurb for a reason. Like, hey, we're going to do this free read about the book. Yes. Now you can buy it and read it.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, if I go, if I ever go this indie publishing route, then I will know, who to contact. I'll be like, hey, all these great people.
Yes, I can recommend some awesome people to you. Absolutely.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to say?
Not really. It's been great to be on, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Like, we have to do it again, unless absolutely. You get a YouTube channel.
I hope to soon.
You're natural.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, so, thank you guys for watching. If you do have any questions that we didn't cover in the video, then you can leave your questions in the comments down below. And then I will also put all of Savannah's information. So if you have questions specifically for her, or if you want to buy her book or subscribe to her newsletter or follow her on social media, we'll link all of it down below. She's so awesome. So
thank you.
I can't sing her praises enough. So
well, thank you
for watching. Until next time.
Bye.